Okay, I think we are ready to go here. We're going to do some more scanning. Last time we did scanning with using pictures, photogrammetry. I think that's the only kind we did. We might have done some LiDAR scanning, I don't remember. Um, we're going to do more of a purpose-built scanning today, and we're going to talk about filament dry boxes. Last time we also did a little bit of modeling in Fusion 360 based on one of our scans. And so I've got a little update on that, and I think we'll go ahead. I think we'll start with the scanning. So I've got set up over here. This is Luke on a Tauntaun from 1980. And so he's on a little turntable. And I've got here older Revo Point Pop, no, not Pop. I guess it would be the one, except it was just the pop scanner back then. Now they're up to 3 or 4, I don't know. I do need a piece of software running now that I think about it. So this scanner is what's called a structured light scanner. So it actually sends out like a picture, so like a grid. And the grid will hit the object, to be projected onto it. Now we can't see the grid in this case. The grid is, I guess, infrared or ultraviolet. It might be ultraviolet. I don't know. We can't see it. But the sensors on the camera, or well, you can kind of see the sensors here. It can see that. So what will happen is if you project a grid onto here, it's going to get deformed by the shape of the object. The sensors can pick up the deformed shape of what should be a rectangular, well, I don't know if it's a rectangular grid, but of the grid, whatever shape the grid is supposed to be, and detect that it's deformed, and the software will go in and interpolate, or well, interpret, not necessarily interpolate, interpret the deformed shape to represent some kind of geometry. And so the little turntable will rotate this guy around. The scanner will project and record at whatever rate it does, and all that will be sent to our computer. Now this one I've got connected to the computer that we're on right now, although it can connect to laptops. I think it connect to mobile devices. I don't know if this particular one can. This is an older device, but the newer stuff can. And so it doesn't have to be tied to a PC. I have only ever used this particular one with a PC, but I have used it with a laptop, and so I could be remote and scan larger things. This particular one also is better at scanning larger objects. This is kind of getting close to its limit on size. This is not a highly detailed. Let's see if we can look at it up close. It's not highly detailed. This is 40 years old or whatever. And it's okay, it's not bad, but it's not a super high detailed thing to begin with. Just for reference, I did use our process from last time so we can see what the comparison is. So I just looked, and turns out our scan software has an update. I don't know if I want to update it yet because it might change how things function. So I'm not going to update right now. And I'm running RevoScan 5. I don't know what the update is to. So we're going to keep what I've run before so that I don't have to learn it on the fly. It's probably not a major update, but it does show that it's updated. Let's look at Mesh Mixer and look at the scan that I created using the Polycam. So I think this is it right here, in fact, because it was this 7:15. Yeah, that was this morning. So here it is. Let's rotate it around a little bit so it's more in an orientation that I would expect it to be in. Something like that. There. Let's close all the, all these little cracks in here. Let's close all of those. So that's better. Let's cut the bottom off. We're not being super accurate here, but we're getting it close. So that looks good, but remember, Polycam in particular, and actually the scanner that we're about to use that does the structured light scanning, they can pick up the actual images, so like pictures, and then map those pictures to the object. So it looks like there's a whole lot of detail here. Like it looks like every little hair and brush stroke is, you know, showing up here. But that's not actually true. Let's see what's actually here. So if I change the shaders to something like clay. Oh wait, where'd it go? Which one? That one. That's what we actually have. So there is detail. I did take more photos up in the, you know, head of the Tauntaun and Luke. I did take more pictures there and close-up pictures versus I didn't take many down here, so you can actually see how it, there's more detail here and it's more blobby down here. So I probably could have gotten slightly more detail out of this thing if I had taken more pictures. I did have more pictures left. I don't remember how many Polycam lets you take. Let's see. Let's see. If I were to start one. Oh, it'll let me. So I have the paid version, and it will take 2,000 pictures, and I took like 200, with some of them being close up here. And it doesn't take long. It takes, you know, you take the pictures, and it maybe takes 40 seconds to a minute to upload them to their servers, and then they process it, and it takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes because they're processing on who knows what kind of hardware. Remember, we did the same thing with Meshroom last time where we processed locally, and it took 80 something pictures. It took somewhere between an hour and 2 hours to process, but that was all done locally. So, you know, that's a reasonable. You can definitely tell that this represents this. You can definitely tell that. So, relatively happy with that. Let's see what the process looks like for scanning. I'm going to close Mesh Mixer. Let's see what the process looks like for scanning this guy. We're going to do a new. Oh, my scanner is disconnected. That's probably not good. Let me reconnect it. And see if that will trigger it to. There's no on-off switch on this thing. It's just plugged in or not plugged in. And let's see if I may have to work on that a little bit, because there isn't any actual switch that tells it to be plugged in or not. Or maybe the cable came unplugged. No, I don't think the cable came unplugged. Why don't I close our software, close all of it, and turn that off. You have to actually unscrew the cable. Okay, now let's reattach everything and see if it will trigger that it's supposed to be connected. Let's see. And it could have been that update that I may have to do the update. All right. I'm going to do the update. While it's updating, we'll talk about the other stuff. Oh, look at that. As soon as I clicked OK, it connected the scanner. All right, so it didn't look like it was an automatic update. It just sent me to their website, so we can carry on with this. All right. So new project. So what we've got here is you've got several panels. Let me move this around so we're not covering up. Actually, all we're covering up there is a picture of the scanner and how many frames per second we're getting. So not a whole lot going on up there. You get about 8 to 10 frames per second on this particular one. Again, this is several years old. The more recent versions, I assume, probably captured a little bit higher rate, and they certainly get more detail. But you've kind of got a image over here in your top left that is just showing the exposure settings. So it's showing you what is the camera seeing as far as depth goes. And then you've got the RGB camera over here showing you what is it seeing as far as texture goes. You can actually see Charizard back there in the background from the last scan that we did last time. So it looks like we're maybe not getting all of the Tauntaun. We're kind of focused on part of it. So I'm going to rearrange stuff a little bit to try and get things. So notice this graph over on the left-hand side. No, that's the right-hand side. Sorry, on the right-hand side. As I move the target further and further away, you can see it kind of get, you know, it's turning orange now. It's saying that what's happening is the target is too far away for the optimum scanning distance. Now, I do have some sliders here where I can affect the scanning distance. I will probably go and measure how far away we are later on, but we're just going to go by the graph here. We're going to try and get it close. So there's good. That's a good range, and it's probably, I don't know, it's a foot away or so. But let's get it into the excellent range. All right, so we're actually pretty close there. So we're not scanning all of the object the way I've got it set up, but that's not going to be a useless scan. So one of the things that we'll do is we will go in and do multiple scans, and we can merge them together. And usually the software is pretty good about figuring out how to merge multiple scans together. Now you can see there's all kinds of stuff in the background back here that the depth sensor is not picking up. There is one dot. I'm not sure what that dot is from. But let's say you had something in the background and you couldn't move it for some reason. Then we could use some sort of black, oh wait, you're not looking at that camera, black sheet to cover it up, and it will disappear. So the way these structured light scanners work is they don't pick up dark colors because, you know, they're projecting some kind of grid onto that surface, and it doesn't reflect very well off of dark colors. They don't work well with shiny because, again, same reason, except that there's too much reflection. And they don't work with clear, transparent stuff because the grid kind of gets passed through the surface, and it's looking at the surface behind the clear surface. So if you have any of those situations, you can hide stuff with a black sheet. I'll just move this out of the way. You can spray things. I'll put this in our camera down there. You know, I use the Golf Strike spray because it's cheaper. But you can spray. There are scanning sprays or anything that you can put on the surface to dull it down or to hide shiny stuff, or to make the clear stuff opaque, or to lighten up the dark surfaces. So this particular model doesn't have very many dark surfaces on it. Like some of the little areas are a little bit dark-ish, but I think they're even bright enough. Now I am noticing that, so the let's go back to our overhead. The little bed here has all these dots on it. That's used for tracking. And right now our camera can't see any of that. So it's only, right now, our camera is only seeing the model. And I'm hoping that it's going to be able to pick up the features without needing the tracking dots. We'll see. So let's go back to our software. I'm going to turn our little turntable on, so you can kind of see he's spinning around there. I've got kind of a preview of what, you know, it first saw that first time I turned it on. Now there's just the start button. So I'm going to start, and we'll see what happens. Now, for some reason, our preview should be updating, and it's not. Not quite sure what's going on there. We might have to check on that. Let's see if it actually recorded anything. All right, it did. It just didn't update our screen for some reason. So here is our scan, it's just a bunch of dots. I'm going to edit it. I'm going to fuse the point cloud, so that's what the dots are called, is a point cloud. And I'm going to construct a mesh. I'm not going to worry with the texture yet. So let's apply that. This is happening locally. It takes depending on the complexity of what you've asked it to do, it takes a minute or two. So it has finished the point cloud, and it's trying to build it into a mesh. All right, so it has done that, but it won't let me. It won't let me actually move around in there. I'm not sure if that's because I'm streaming it or what's going on there. But it looks like it only did part of it. So I'm gonna go back to scan, and we're gonna do a new scan. We are in feature tracking mode. We're not even using the markers, so that's okay. We only have the option for standard accuracy with this scanner, and it is a general object. So those all look fine. We could turn off the texture scanning here if we wanted to. I wonder if it's because I changed the scanning distance. It shouldn't be. Not sure about that part. But let's start a scan, and I will just try and keep track of a full rotation of the thing. Normally it updates this center viewport so that we can see what's happening, but it's not doing that right now. I suspect it's something to do with my streaming setup. I'm just watching the actual scan itself, and we've about made a lap. So somewhere around there should be one lap. All right. Oh, got to complete. And let's edit and create a mesh. We can go ahead and do the texture also just to see what it looks like. Now, what we would really need to do is take multiple scans. So we don't even have the legs of the tauntaun, so we need to scan those. We didn't scan anything from the top. We need to do that. Yes, we could probably get a better scan if we did all of those things. We're just trying to get, you know, a representative idea of what this scanner is capable of doing in what speed. So it's doing the mesh, and we'll look at this little piece side by side with the one from the photogrammetry. I did not do one with mesh room. It just takes too long to do just for a sample. Although I do think the mesh room version that I got of the Camry had a little bit higher detail. It certainly had more elements in it, but I think it had a little bit higher detail than the one I got from Polycam. But I did not ask Polycam to export the highest model, so it's probably about the same. All right, so still can't turn that around. Let's export the model so that we can look at it. Let's do a texture model, and we'll put this on the desktop, and it's going to be called 071502. That'll be fine. Oh wait, no, but we want it to be an OBJ. Okay, I'm not sure how long it's going to take to do that because it's not giving me a indicator here. Oh, there we go. Let's close RevoScan. Let's close that. I will try updating it later on and see if there's any major difference or not. Let's go to Mesh Mixer. Let's import the one that we looked at earlier as a comparison. So this one's from photogrammetry. I do want them kind of side by side. So let's. Oh, not that. Not that. Not sure what I was. Transform. Click the wrong button. I will say that with the scanner, the actual scanner tool, I have gotten much more accurate results. Like, it actually records dimensions pretty accurately. So if you need something and you don't want to have to scale it later, then it does give you accurate results. Let's just cut the bottom of this guy off to make it nice and flat. Okay, and let's close the cracks. All right, so there's the photogrammetry one. Let's import and append wherever I put this other guy. He was on the desktop though. I think it's that one. Now okay, so the scale is different. Meshmaker's going to try to fix it. I'm not sure where it put it. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it kind of put it roughly the same size. So let's get them over there side by side though. Kind of hard to tell where it is in space. All right, we're getting close. Something like that. Turn him around. And looks like he's a little larger, so let's get him about the same size. Something like that. All right, so clearly this one has lots of holes. There's missing geometry because I only did the one scan, right? We could try to patch those holes if we were worried about it, but there's photogrammetry. There's the structured light scanner. Let's see. These are both with textures. Now you can see here the texture is way too bright on the scanner version, but we could have changed our lighting and fixed that. So let's go over here to our shaders and let's add that plain looking shader again. Okay, so I would say that there is more detail in the scanner. You know, you can actually have some of the actual fibers of the hair of the tauntaun are there. There's there's missing detail because I didn't do enough scans, but you've got a few of the little striations in the horn where they're not on the photogrammetry one. Even though I did take extra pictures up here. The face for Luke is about the same. Slightly crisper edges on here, I think. So I think there is a little bit higher detail that I'm getting from the scanner version, the structured light version. Now, if we had a newer structured light scanner, I do think we'd get quite a bit more detail. In fact, I did see when I was searching, I couldn't remember how old this thing was, so I had to search for the Luke riding a tauntaun figurine, and I actually found some scans. Now I got to find it again. So somebody has gone in with a higher resolution scanner and actually scanned one of these things, and you can kind of see, they've gotten a lot more detail. I don't remember if they told how they scanned it. Doesn't say here. But you can see that this one, whatever scanner they use, does have higher detail than the one that we used. And I actually saw several of those. There was a couple of them that were, I don't see them now, but I did see a couple of these that had been scanned. But they did have higher resolution than what we've gotten on ours. So it's a pretty fast process. It happens locally again. You don't have to send stuff to the cloud. The downside is that there's way more cost involved. Even this little cheap scanner was, I don't know, $500. Let's see what they are today. Revo Point is not the only one. It's just one of the early ones that were not so expensive. So here's one. I don't know you know, it says high accuracy, $2.99. You can get the Pop 2 off of AliExpress if you trust that for $100. There's the Pop 3, 600 or something. Here's kind of a handheld. It's got a screen and everything, but it's 1200. So they're gonna be in the multi-$100 range for even the cheaper things, and you're not generally going to get super high resolution out of them. Like if you need super fine details. Let's see what they've got out here on their web page. 3D scanners. So got all kinds of pop-ups everywhere. There's the Mini, the one that has its own, basically a mobile platform built into it, so you can see what you're scanning without having to be connected to something else. There's the Pop 3. That's kind of the newer version of what we looked at here. The Mini is set up to get higher resolution. So let's see what kind of samples they have here. So, I mean, it says 0.2 millimeters. I haven't used one to know if that's true or not, but usually the trade-off you have for the smaller resolution is that it can't scan very large objects. The Revo Point can't do super fine details, but it can do relatively large objects. I scanned a motorcycle fairing with this one and then printed it out. So I wonder if I still have that. Oh, it wouldn't be in there. It would be here because I did it in Fusion. So let's see the price on this guy. What's the price? Buy now. $8.29. So yeah, so they're really at the upper end of what a consumer is going to use, but they're definitely in the price range of something that a small business would use. There are much more expensive ones. Like if you're a large business and you really need these for metrology or reverse engineering or quality control, then there are much higher end versions that do have a lot of high accuracy. Although the handheld consumer-ish level ones are getting to the point that they're not far off from the commercial grade ones. Let's see if I can find the motorcycle fairing. I don't really know where I put that. But let's, oh, there it is right there. So this was scanned multi-pieces from using this exact scanner, the same one we just looked at, and it's the front right fairing off of a motorcycle. You've got some mounting points inside there. This is after it's been smoothed. You can kind of tell that the grid on it, where it shows the mesh surface, is much more regular. Here's the unsmoothed version. It probably takes longer to load up. So there's the original version from the scanner. The mesh is very irregular, a little bit bumpy. I did have to spray this one with the golf spray stuff, but it was a little bit shiny, and it just didn't track very well. I also put tracking markers on it. So where's my little? So you can use like markers they're just white dots. They just are similar to this, but there's stickers that you can use to oops, there we go. You can use to help track the surface. Particularly this one had large flat surfaces which are hard to track. And so I had to put some dots on there. You can actually see some of them. Like there's one. Let's see. There's one there. So you kind of they do affect the surface a little bit, but it's even able to get some of the ribs inside here, where the mirror mounts, all these kind of things, and then the smooth version. Oh wait, right here it is. was after processing it a little bit. We printed this it printed in one piece on a MakerBot 18Z18, and I think it's still being used. So it's doable to create actual usable parts. I just printed it in PLA too, and it's so far. This has been, what is this? This was 2023 when I smoothed it. So it's been that was January of 23. So it's been all of 23 and half of 24, and it's still functional in just PLA. I think he might have sprayed it with some silver paint to, you know, kind of blend it in with the rest of the motorcycle. All right. Let's see. I don't see any questions over there. I'm going to close down some stuff. I've got so many things running. All right. So the scanning does produce pretty, if nothing else, it's fast, right? So it does not take long. We could go in if we wanted to put the legs on here. I've actually already closed the software, but we could rearrange, you know, either lay it down sideways, or we could rearrange where we've got our camera pointing to get the bottom half here. We would probably even want to try and scan. You don't have to put the thing on the turntable. You can move the scanner around. That's how I did with the motorcycle fairing, is I actually handheld the scanner and scanned around where I needed geometry to show up. So you can do that. And then in the software, why don't we try, just so you can see how it works. I don't want to take a whole lot of time on it, but let's we're not going to do that. Let's open up our project that we just finished. All right, so that's the one that we did first. I'm going to delete that one. Why don't we scan? Let's do a new scan, and let's try to aim down lower so that we're getting more of the legs. So now in our little preview, you can see that we're a little more focused on the leg area of the Tauntaun and of Luke. Oh, and our live preview is actually working right now, so maybe that'll stay. I don't know. We're still on feature tracking, and it's a general object. There is an option for a dark object if you have something that is black or a dark color where it's not picking it up very well. It can try. I don't know if it projects a more intense structured light pattern, or if it's just more sensitive. I don't know which way it goes, but it does work a little bit better, at least on picking up some of the dark objects. And now you can kind of see I've got this can here. It was in our field of view. If I leave that there, this part turns, the Tauntaun turns, but this doesn't, and it gets really confusing. So let's get that out, and let's try to start this scan. All right, there's our, let me show you. We're not looking at the screen. All right, so there you go. There's our preview. I was pointing to stuff you couldn't see. All right, so there's our, and as soon as I turn that on, our live preview quits working, but whatever. It's kind of picking up there. So it's showing red. That means that it had some data, and it's trying to match it up with the other data. I think it might, once it gets back around to where it's kind of lined up. We'll see. Yeah, see, it picked up. So it's given us a little bit of a preview of the point cloud. We're missing some of the top information, but now we're getting information about the legs. So that looks generally good. Once it makes a lap here, we'll turn it off and we'll try to fuse this part with the part we scanned before. All right, so we'll pause that, turn off our little turntable. We'll complete that one. And then we'll do the same thing where we create the point cloud and mesh. We'll go ahead and with the texture. So it'll take a minute or so for it to take the point cloud, the bunch of dots, and turn it into a mesh. It does do some pretty good, like if it sees 2 points close to one another and they're the same, it thinks they're the same point, it will merge them together. So it does clean up a lot of our mesh during this fusion part. So you can kind of see it just happened there, where we had, kind of 2 images and then it snapped them together. Now it created a solid, well, mostly solid. There's still gaps in it. You can see a gap down here. You can see some gaps back here. We could go fix those a couple of ways. One would be we could take some scans from the top of the figurine. We didn't do any of that. So it's, all right, so it completed the texture. Now what I have over here is I have 2 different scans. I have one that is mostly the top and one that's mostly the bottom. So I've got a tab, it's kind of hidden over here. Hold up, there, our camera had frozen. Let's see if I can get it under here. So there's this merge tab where I can select multiple models. So I've got these 2, and the software will try to merge them together. So let's see what it can do. As long as there's enough overlap where it can figure out that, oh, this point must match up with that point, these surfaces have to match up or whatever, then, all right, so it does, and look, it generally, that looks right. So now I've got, at least from the base up to the top, it looks a little short, I'll say, but I don't know. I think it squished it a little bit. It's hard to say. But we still don't have any data there because we never scanned, looking from the top of the Tauntaun and Luke. So we could keep adding scans to it. I think for the for the motorcycle fairing, I probably did like 5 or 6 scans to get them all merged together. We can try to create a mesh out of this. I don't know if you can see. It won't let me move it right now. I did the auto process, but there is a manual process where you can go and manually say that this point lines up on this model with this point on the other model. That's what I did with the fairing. Is I would go in, and particularly for the mounting holes, I would go and pick, those are the points or the mounting holes, or these dots line up with those dots. There's our model. Looking better. We're missing some geometry, but we knew that. We could go and get some more details on those specific spots if we wanted to. We could export it and go check it out compared to the others. We want a mesh. We want a STL or an OB. Well, we've been doing OBJ. This is the Align 01 mesh. Let's put it on the desktop though. And then we could, we could do whatever we wanted with it. We could print it, use it in a scenario somewhere, a digital scenario somehow. But you can reasonably well get some usable geometry from the real world into the digital world. You can use photogrammetry, which might have some free options. Or if you have the right equipment, then you can use that also, like for these scanners. There are other types of scanners too. This is just the ones that are most accessible price-wise are in this structured light kind of setting. All right. Enough about scanning. So, actually one more thing about scanning, related to scanning. I did print this. So this is one piece of our wing that we designed based on the photogrammetry scan of the Camry trunk lid. So this is just one piece of it. So I wanted to show you how you can take a large model like this thing would be, you know, it fits on the back of a car, and slice it up in a usable way. It even has like little mounting holes, alignment holes for the other pieces that it connects to. So you could do that in Mesh Mixer. That's okay, but there's some built-in tools in Prusa Slicer that do this pretty well. And that's what I use with this. Also, this is a single wall print, so you can't, actually you can tell right there. So it filled in. So this is just for like test fitting or whatever. It took an hour and a half to print versus, you know, I don't know how long, hours and hours to print if this was the real thing. So let me show you how you do that. So let's close out Mesh Mixer. Actually, let's look at our, before we close this down, let's import our last little model and see how it compares with these others. There he is over there. A little bit bigger. So I don't think we lost any detail. We might have gained a little bit there. I'm not sure. I don't know. Let's put the same kind of shader that was on these others on him. Yeah, it looks about the same, but now he has legs. Still missing, you know, some surfaces here and there. If they're tiny surfaces, you can go in Mesh Mixer even, and you can, let's see, which one is the better option here. I think Analysis Inspector, and then we can do a smooth fill here. So it's going to find all the problems. Usually the problems are holes. It'll find all the holes in the mesh, and we can just tell it to repair them. And if you do the smooth fill, it'll kind of map them. They won't have texture on them, but if they were small, like where his nose here, we didn't pick up that. If that's all we needed to fix, then those will fix pretty well. Now this, where he's missing the whole side of his body here, that's probably not going to fix very well. Not sure how long it's going to take though. Remember, Mesh Mixer, it's a little bit unstable, particularly when you get more and more geometry in the scene, which we might be at the point now to where it's going to crash on us because we just have too much stuff going on. So if you're using Mesh Mixer for any of this kind of stuff, definitely save often. There it actually is going. We might have to come back to it though. Let's open Prusa Slicer while we're waiting. So Prusa Slicer, apparently I'm running 2.8. I don't know if that's the most recent version or not. This is free. It's a free slicer. It's built on top of a slicer. And there it is, actually says. Okay, ask me next time. Apparently I just installed 2.8. So it's based on Slicer right there, which is an open source slicer, which you can use that slicer. There's several that are built on top of that one. Prusa Slicer is one of them. And again, it's free to use, and it will work with printers other than Prusa printers. Oh, here's our fixed models. So you can kind of see it did a decent job on some of these. It worked fine on the small stuff. It really didn't know what to do with the missing stuff on Luke, though. It kind of went crazy there. So you would want to fix that some other way, and it really fixed the bottom really strangely. But now it's at least a watertight model. You would just need to do some editing on that. All right. Don't save any of that. All right, so Prusa Slicer. Let's bring in our model, which I don't actually know which one it is. Oh, this is the one I've already sliced up. So maybe this one. All right, so there it is. Super tiny, right? Um, the scale, again, we did photogrammetry, which it doesn't have a great scaling method in it. So I had to go out, and I don't really remember the number, but I remember that I scaled this to where the, what direction is that? X direction, I think was 120 millimeters. Is that right? No, no. 1200 millimeters maybe. 120 centimeters. All right. All right, so now, clearly that is not going to fit on our print bed. So we have to do something to get this thing to actually fit in here. So Prusa Slicer has this little feature right here called Cut. And it will give you a plane. So it does a plane at a time. And you can cut, you move this plane around however you want to, angle it however you want to, and use it to slice up large models into little models. The very good part about it is this button right here, add connectors. So in our little wing piece, you can kind of see there's some holes, and those were built by Prusa. I didn't have to go in and model those or anything. I just told it I wanted connectors. So let's slice it down the middle and add some connectors. I'm going to do a dowel. So a dowel would be each part that I print has holes in it, and then you can print or add a solid wooden or printed dowel between those holes. It also has a snap fit. I haven't used the snap fit one much, but I usually use the dowel ones. If you do the plug, it's similar to the dowel, except it will print the little peg that sticks out, and sometimes that gives you printing problems, like you have to support it. So dowel usually works better. I'm going to do a circle, and for the scale of this thing, I'm going to say that they need to be 10 millimeters. I can give a tolerance here, so if I need them to be slightly larger because my printer over extrudes or whatever, then I can add that here. So you would want to test out your print settings on dowel and hole that the dowel has to go in to make sure your tolerances are right. Otherwise, you're going to spend a bunch of time trying to fit things together. So then all you do is you go to your part and you click on it where you want these dowels to end up at. It's moving really slowly because of the size of it. Probably do a better job of aligning than I have. There we go. Add one more. There. Confirm the connectors. And now, oh, why is this? There we go. Put it more in the center. There we go. We're going to, object A and B are color coded, and you can do each of them however you want to as far as arranging them. Neither of these are going to fit on the print bed, so we're going to have to cut it again. So I'm just going to keep the orientation and perform the cut. Not sure why it's taking. Normally it cuts a lot faster than it is right now. Okay. So now I've got, two halves here. Actually, what is it? Oh, I must have had multiple there for some reason. Let's delete. Uh-oh. Not sure what happened there. I have two of everything, and then a whole bed load of dowels to fix everything together. Not sure why I have two. I shouldn't have two, but somehow I ended up with two. I must have had I must have imported it twice or something, but that's fine. All right. Let's say that we want now to actually fit something on the bed. I'm going to get all these little pegs off of here because, oh shoot. I don't think I can, oh, I can window select them. All right, good. Move those over to the side. let's just say the piece that I cut was, I think it's this piece over here. So now we want to select one of these, plane cut, not move. Want to rotate that guy around, and you can actually snap to exact 270 degrees or whatever. And then maybe like that. And we can add connectors, same idea. Confirm them, perform the cut. Much faster that time, except I'm getting 2s of everything. It must be some option I've got that's doubling everything, which I'm not sure about. So, not sure about what's going on with that. Get off of there. And then you could go in here and actually get one of your parts on the print bed. I think I would print it with this bottom surface, so let's lay on there. And now you've got one piece. Now you have to keep all these other pieces around, except I don't know why it's doubling them. That's kind of weird to me. But for some reason there's 2 instances of these things, and I'm not sure why. Oh, there's instance 1 and instance 2. I could just turn off instance 2. Not sure about why there's 2, but there are. So you could go in and then if you keep your other parts off to the side, they won't print. It won't slice them, it won't print. It'll only worry about the parts that are on the print bed. But now I can go back and, all right, now I need to chop off the next piece. And so that's how you could keep track of everything actually matching when you're done with your prints, versus trying to cut off a piece and then go to Mesh Mixer or something and cut off another piece. It would get a little bit confusing, a little bit hard to keep track of. But here you just keep the pieces off to the side, and they will wait for you until you're ready to print them, and then you drag them off to the print bed, and then they can print. So Prusa Slicer, other than the fact that for some reason I am actually getting multiples. Oh, I wonder if it's because if I cut into objects or cut into parts. I don't know. Keep orientation, place on cut. Not really sure why I'm getting the multiple cuts. You can also do, I did planar, just a straight line. You can do dovetail, where if I can see, it will actually make the, you don't need the connectors then, it'll make the parts actually slide into one another. That could be an option too. I haven't used that very much. I think the planar is simpler. Planar with the pegs or the dowels, or it's easier to do. All right, so I want to get out of that. So that's a pretty straightforward way. Prusa Slicer's free. You don't have to go pay anything for it. It will work with your printer more than likely. It is very different setup than Cura. So if you're used to Cura, you're going to look around a while in where are my print settings? Well, they're in this whole tab called print settings, and there's a lot of them. So there is a little bit of a learning curve on knowing where to find stuff to change, like your layer height, because it basically exposes all the options to you without having to go and select them. They're just in different menus. So normally all you have to do is you do your print settings and layers and perimeter, so how thick are your layers and how many walls do you want, and then you go to your filaments and tell it what temperature you want to print at. So that's pretty much how it normally works. So it does take a little bit of learning on the slicing side if you're coming from Cura. All right, let's see. I've got one more thing. We'll discard all of that. I've already cut it up for, I don't know if I want to print this or not. I might print a few pieces, but I don't know if we'll print that many pieces or not. All right, so the other thing is we do want to print that carbon fiber polycarbonate stuff. Polycarbonate, nylon, a lot of materials are very hygroscopic, so they absorb moisture from the air. And we're in a humid relatively warm environment, which are both bad conditions for, actually they're good conditions for absorbing moisture. We just don't want them to absorb moisture. So how do we avoid that? I showed you one. I showed you this. The vacuum kit, $20-ish or something. This will give you a little vacuum pump and some reusable bags that you can put your filament in, pump the air out, and they hold their seal pretty well. It also gives you a few little pieces of desiccant packets in there. So that's one option. You could just do this every time. This does not remove moisture. So if your filament has gotten moisture in it, this won't do anything. This just helps prevent moisture from getting to it in the first place. So this won't help if your filament already has moisture. So in that case, you're going to need to actually dry the filament somehow. If you happen to have a food dehydrator, then there are people that use them for filament drying. It's usable. They even make some filament dryers that are basically food dehydrators, just been rebranded and repurposed. They also make these. Here's one filament dryer. I haven't even opened it yet. Haven't got the tape off of it yet. So let's see. Now we're in the, I don't remember, $40 or $50 range. It's going to look like that guy. This one can do two side by side. Some of these are set up where you can keep your filament in them, like store the filament and print from them. So let me see if I can get it out of here. There's little foam pieces everywhere. So there. And these are active. So this actually has a little heater in it, and it will heat the chamber to somewhere in the 50 to 60 Celsius range, somewhere in that range. Just enough to get the water out, or at least push some of the water out, and not melt your filament or your filament roll. Little power supply. So down in there, you've got a little heater mat. You've got a fan there, a little sensor here. I actually don't know if this one gives you a humidity sensor. Some of them have humidity, what's the humidity in that chamber. I think this one just tells you what temperature is it running at. And you can set it to go off for a certain amount of time. So, little power supply. So that's another option. There are a couple of these. This is the Soval one. It has two side-by-side, relatively normal sized rolls. Let's see if I don't see a roll of filament around here to put in there. But this one. Ooh. Okay, so here is a roll of ASA. I finally got a roll. So this is a typical roll. Let's see if it fits. It does fit in there. It's super tight though. That particular one. I don't know. Yeah, it rolls relatively well. Okay. You couldn't get anything wider than that in there for sure. But that's a relatively normal size roll of 1 kilogram roll of filament. So that's an option. You can get something, a box of sorts, even a cardboard box. Turn your printer on, the bed on to 50 or 60 like this guy's going to be, and put your filament directly on the bed and let it bake it out that way. I've seen people do that. That takes hours though, so to be aware that the baking process is hours of, let's see if it gives me a typical time, 6 hours. Usually these come with a chart for different filaments. Yeah, so temperatures, this one goes up to 50. And you could, it's 6 to 12 hours for a drying cycle. So you can either do 6 to 12 hours of drying. So it does take a while to actually dry them. Once you get them dry, then you can put them in one of your dry boxes. Oh, you can also just use desiccant. So this is a 5-pound can of white silica gel. So just desiccant. So there are these that are reusable. So what you do is you have to dry the desiccant after a while. You can do that with the microwave, 30 seconds in the microwave to dry them. You can bake them. You can put them in something like this and bake them out in a convection oven for a couple of hours. Some of those desiccant types are indicators. So they change color when they get full of moisture. This particular one doesn't. Some of them are blue, some of them are orange, and they will change colors when they are full of moisture. They can't absorb any more moisture. So those are kind of handy. You just have to be careful when you're going to reactivate them. I think they say regenerate them because you just want to be careful handling the ones that have the indicators in them, because the indicators are, you know, they're chemicals, cobalt, chromium, I think, and some kind of, I don't remember what the orange one is now. I wrote it down actually. Let's see. I wrote it in the notes for class. Let's see. Right here. Methyl violet is the other one. Cobalt chloride, not chromium. Cobalt chloride and methyl violet are the two most common. Although they do have some newer desiccant indicator desiccants that use like starches for the color change, which would be less chemically. They'd be more inert, I suppose. Let's see. So we talked about that. The other thing you can do is I did find a pretty good. This is on printables, so this is actually Prusa's version of Thingiverse. Here's a pretty good setup for a $7 from Walmart container, 20-quart container, and then you print the little mounting stuff, and you can put 4 rolls of filament in there. This is not an active one. This is just a dry box, so it is one that'll seal, and then they have created little ports here using the same kind of fitting that your Bowden tube uses in order to be able to access the filament while it's in the dry box. This particular person also put in humidity sensors inside the dry box. That's probably a little bit much, but you could do that if you had them. So then you could go in and, you know, check the humidity level inside any of your dry boxes. If they get too high, you got to go change out the desiccant. These are meant to have desiccant in them. They actually use the free bags you can get, the Tyvek bags you can get from the post office, and put some of the desiccant in those, and then sealed up the bags, heat sealed them with like a food processor type of sealing device, and that's their desiccant bags. Or you could get desiccant yourself. All right. I think that probably gets us through today. We talked about scanning, gave you some examples of structured light scanning. We talked about keeping your filament dry, and you know, a couple of ways you can do that, including the let me put the box or the link to this in the chat, because I don't think I put it anywhere. So if you wanted to go find the printables version, there's the link for it. This one you can make your own dry box relatively cheaply, assuming you don't do the humidity sensor. That's probably an extra cost, but it's a couple of printed parts, a PVC tube, pipe, and a $7 20-quart box from Walmart to seal it all in. It doesn't dry your filament, but it will keep it dry once you get it dry. So if you most of the stuff that really matters, like the polycarbonates and the nylons, they come to you sealed up, like vacuum sealed. So they should be okay. It's just once they get out in the moisture, that's when they start absorbing moisture from the air. So if you put them straight into one of these, you should be fine for quite a while. So if you're having issues with, I did write out a list of things that you might notice for filament that had absorbed too much moisture. They actually might become weaker. So your printed parts might become weaker. The thing you'll probably notice first, though, is extrusion problems. So you'll actually hear popping sounds coming from the print nozzle as it's printing. That's actually water vapor, or water that's boiling off and kind of exploding as you print. You might also, once you print a little bit of this stuff, you'll probably see a lower quality surface finish than you had been experiencing. That could be moisture entrapment. Could be reduced adhesion. You probably wouldn't notice that right away. You would think that's something more like your bed's not level or it's greasy or something like that. There'll be more stringing. So if you have a part that needs retraction, and it's your filament is has trapped water in it, then your stringing is probably going to be a little bit more extreme than normal. If you're printing a clearish or transparent part, it'll be a little more cloudy just because there's moisture trapped in it. I also wrote up a little bit about the filament properties is because of hydrolysis. So the water inside the filament now gets broken down into oxygen and hydroxide, and it breaks apart the long chains of polymer and makes them into smaller, shorter chains, and that can reduce your physical material properties for the filament. So I wrote a little thing about what that does. All right, we'll be back Wednesday, 9:30, and I actually don't know what we have planned. Let me see if there's a thing here, and if that's what I want to do. We're not going to do Octoprint, so we'll do something different though. We have moved on to Clipper, and we kind of skipped Octoprint. To me, Octoprint does some of the same stuff that Clipper does. I guess all right. So the reason you would want to do Octoprint is that you don't want to have, well, you want the remote part, but you don't really care about the tweaking of everything. So there might be a reason to do Octoprint, but to me, you would just do Clipper these days. All right, we'll be